It has now been 2 decades since 4 teenagers were shot and killed in Huntington.
It was 4:30 in the morning on May 22nd, 2005. Megan Poston, Michael Dillon, Edric Clark, and Dante Ward all died when that shooting happened on Charleston Avenue. No arrests have ever been made. WSAZ's Lisa Feinstein joins us now. And Lisa, this is a case that marked a before and after point for the entire community.
If you ask anyone who went to that scene, from family and friends to police, even journalists, they will all tell you it's one that will stick with them forever. I sat down with 2 current and 1 former WSAZ reporter about this tragedy they all agree still feels surreal today.
In May of 2005, I was reporting weekends.
I was just a news reporter here at WSAZ.
I had been here for probably about 10 years.
On the 22nd, the news started breaking overnight.
We had gone to church, and before Mass started at St. Joe, we had somebody come up who lived on Charleston Avenue or in that area and tapped me on the shoulder before church started and said, did you hear what happened?
I was in church, and I got a text and say, four young people have been murdered. I ran out of church, ran over to the scene.
Said goodbye to my family, took off, and I came to the station and got a camera and went to the scene and spent the rest of the day there.
It just lives in your mind of when you got there. The street was shut down, more police than I've ever seen in my life.
As the hours went on, the crowd got bigger and bigger and bigger. People from the neighborhood and people from other neighborhoods had all gathered around.
People were in fear. They didn't know who did this.
I was right along the police line with all the other people. And so you're hearing all the rumors and the talk and this and that. And then the word started to come around from more than one person that these were children, that these were kids, that these were teenagers or young people.
4 innocent lives and kids gone and no arrest.
You have trouble processing, thinking about what's even happened here. And then when you arrive on the scene, it's really even worse than you thought.
Then tears started to flow. People said, oh, I think I know who it is. And there was a lot of emotion. The sun was out. It was getting hot. There was a lot of anger. There was a lot of frustration. People were coming up to me saying, why aren't we getting more answers? It was an intense scene.
You're hoping that you can find some information that will help the police or will help, tell part of the story. And again, just lots of fear, I think, really was gripped the community.
The follow-up in those days after, the emotion just ratcheted up even more.
It was every day there was a new story. There were 4 families now burying children and no one plans for a burial of a child.
This was very impactful. And it still is, it still really much is, because you feel for the families. You can't help it.
This story sits right here. It hits you harder than, every story really leaves an impact. And at that time, in the early 2000s, in this area, we buried a lot of young kids.
Every human life has value to it. That's what we're taught from the time we're little. But when you're a parent and you see other parents going through what those parents went through, man, that's when you take your job doing news and put it aside, and you just feel like you just want to hug those family members.
I was a parent, and you think, later on I would reflect on that night and think, okay, you're sending your kids off to what's supposed to be one of the best nights of their life, and these kids end up dead.
When I became a mom, it was almost like the story came back to my forefront like tenfold. Thinking of my child, I know when she does get old enough, to go to prom, there's something in the back of your mind to make sure the kids are safe. The fact that 4 kids died after prom, this crime changed the Huntington community.
Because it tore families apart. The families of the victims will never be the same. Even if somebody is arrested, tried, and convicted, those families will still never be the same.
4 lives were taken, and 20 years may have passed, but no one's being held accountable. And You know, as a journalist, you want to continue doing any story you can to keep it in the forefront of people's minds, because you just never know who might say something.
If you have anything that's going to help bring somebody to justice for this terrible crime, do it. I sound like a police officer, but I'm just a former journalist wanting justice for our community.
Would that help? Absolutely, and the families will say that. They would very much appreciate someone paying the price legally for their children's deaths, but they'll never get their kids back, and that's the hardest part.